All right, good afternoon, everyone. Please let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. Just checking from which part of India are you joining in. You can put in the chat box. And also mention your qualification. What is your qualification? Are you a doctor or pharmacist? Some other qualification? And we'll begin in just a few seconds from now. The recording of the session will be available to you, so don't worry, just make notes and maybe interact with Dr. Anubha today. Try to understand more about what these white papers and PowerPoint slides and posters are all about, how we can make them better, how we can make them more communicative, and how they act as one of the most important pillars of medico-marketing. So Dr. Anubha is here. She'll talk more about what medico-marketing is all about and what role it plays in the pharmaceutical industry's marketing to healthcare professionals. Yeah, so let's see if Dr. Anubha is already here. Dr. Anubha, please confirm if you are there. You may switch on your video. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Hi, I'm here.
You're here already? Already. Could you switch on the video? I'll just stop sharing my screen so that you are visible clearly to participants.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. All right. So participants,
hi. Can you see me now?
Yes, I can see you. Participants, please confirm if you can hear both of us and also see Dr. Anubha clearly. I'll just give a brief intro about Dr. Anubha as is the ritual of this session, and then we'll proceed with the session today. Yeah. Just checking if you can hear her voice as well clearly. Dr. Anubha, just checking, mic checking. Yeah. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible to me. Yeah. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Anubha, for agreeing to come here and share your learnings as a medico-marketing writer, medico-marketing communicator, and you'll be sharing a lot of information to us with respect to white papers, posters, and slides. Yeah. So Dr. Anubha is a medical doctor. She did her MBBS from AIIMS, Bhopal, and she quit her medical field to explore the world of medical writing. She has been working as a medical writer for the past 2 years now, and she worked on projects ranging from writing and editing journal manuscripts, preparing continuing medical education slide decks, leave behind leaflets, e-learning modules, and much more type of these medical marketing contents. She has been working on medical marketing inputs specifically in nephrology, cardiology, endocrinology, and especially in diabetes. So welcome, Dr. Anubha. We are all here to learn more about this medical marketing and inputs, and welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Pleasure is mine.
Yeah.
So you may please begin sharing your slides and do share us your story, how you got into, most medical doctors prefer to practice, but you got into, pharmaceutical industry, that too specific medical writing, and let us know why you choose to get into medical writing.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I'll just share my screen.
Yeah,
and
please,
then we can start.
Yeah. Please, no problem. Yeah. Okay. Hold on, just give us a few seconds, please, and then Dr. Anubha is just checking with her slides. We'll just start. Yeah, it's loading.
Yeah,
perfect. I can see the slides. Participants, just give us a thumbs up if you can see the slides as well. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so can you guys see my slides?
Yes,
Can you see the screen? Okay.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so let's start with the thing. So today we are going to be talking about, medical marketing, what it is, and, different types of materials that can be used in medical marketing. And we will specifically be discussing white papers, posters, and CME slides in great detail as to, where they are used, how they can be used, how to, better communicate what you want to through these materials. And I will also talk about how to best, create them, format them, what are the different, tips and tricks that you can use to make them better, to make them more reachable to the audience and stuff like that. So in the end, we'll also talk a little bit about the ethical considerations that you should keep in mind while preparing, any sort of medical marketing stuff, not only just these three, but anything. Okay, so before we start, let's see a little bit about myself. So I completed my MBBS in 2020 December. I did it from AIIMS Bhopal, and I kind of knew a little bit in my final year that this hospital, working in the hospital and the clinical practice is probably something not for me, and I would like to discover more. So I kept searching as to what I can do, use my medical education as well, and also do something else. And I kept searching, and then that's when I came across medical writing. And so that was like a really new concept for me, because I never knew that something like medical writing could exist. And I always enjoyed writing and stuff, and now I get to use my medical knowledge to do what I like, basically. And as I started exploring more and more, so I've been working as a medical writer for almost 2 years now, for more than 2 years now. Initially, I used to work as a freelance medical writer, because I was also working for a year as a non-acad JR in Safdarjung Hospital, and that just made me pretty sure that I do not want to work in the hospital anymore. So yeah, that was kind of what sealed the entire thing, that this is what I like. So after that, I started working at Cactus Globals from July 2022, and I am still working there. I do take up freelance projects on the side. So that is what I do. And as I, went deeper into medical writing, and it's a vast field. Like, I cannot even begin to explain how vast this field is. I initially started out with writing blogs for a medical website. That is just a very tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to medical writing than what initially comes across. So I've been exploring a lot of medical marketing in the past few months, and doing that, and I think that is what I really enjoy. So yeah, so I've been working as a medical marketer for the past few months, and also working at Cactus Globals for almost a year now. Yeah. Okay. So let's start with the actual presentation now. Okay, so during this PPT, we'll go through what is medical marketing. We will also learn what are the different materials that one uses while as a medical marketer, and we will discuss in great details white papers, CME slides, posters, like I said, and a little bit about ethical considerations and the future of medical marketing. We'll discuss that towards the end of the PPT, right? Okay. So what is medical marketing, right? So this is also known as pharmaceutical marketing. If you see the word medical marketing, so what does marketing mean, basically? So if you see, marketing basically means that you identify a gap in the society, like a need of the patients, of the people, and then you try to launch products, and advertise products and promote those products to fill that gap in the society, right? So what is medical marketing? Medical marketing basically means marketing for all the products or services related to healthcare and healthcare industry. So these can include a lot of things. Like, this can include drugs, like pharmaceutical companies promote the drugs that they produce through medical marketing. This can also include medical devices that many medical device companies prepare, like BP apparatus, glucometer, stuff like that, right? And so that is what basically medical marketing means. Also, you can, when like a new hospital comes up or a new clinic comes up, they want to advertise themselves, and they tell the public that what are the kind of services they offer and stuff like that. So they can also use medical marketing. There are different materials that are used for different things. Like, all of these services and products use different kinds of medical marketing materials that we'll talk about in a little while. But so basically, that is what medical marketing means, right? That you market your services that are related to healthcare industry and how you can improve the lives of the patients, right? So the main companies or the key players in this field are pharma companies. They promote their drugs and other, molecules or materials that they come up with. Then they can be medical device manufacturers, and who will promote the medical devices that they develop. Then there are healthcare professionals, people like, people who are the target audience and who will be, like these are the people that we want to showcase our products to. And then there is something called regulatory bodies, which is basically that all of these, while you have to market your products, you have to ensure that you do it in a very ethical way, because it's patients' well-being and safety at is the key here. So you absolutely cannot, like, um, have anything wrong to do with like patient safety and education. So there are regulatory bodies that are also involved in this process, which very tightly regulate the rules and the laws that you need to follow while doing that, right? So while medico-marketing, you want to um, like showcase your product, build that kind of trust with your audience, and then kind of drive your sales for your product profitably, right? Because while we have to take care of everything else, but the main goal is to drive sales, right? So that is all. You have to like take all of this into account. So you need like a very good understanding of medical field as well as of a marketing field, and understand your patients, your audience's psychology and what they actually need. So you have to have this like collision of all these things, and you have to take all of these together and work with it, right? Okay, so let's move on. So these are some of the objectives of medico-marketing, which is basically you develop the product and then you launch the product, right? Like you have developed a product, like the company has developed a product and they now have to launch it to the market. So that is the first step, that you launch the product. After all the testings and everything that is done, you launch the product in the market, and then you start to develop the brand image, right? So that is now this is where like medico-marketing starts coming in, right? You develop the brand image. You suppose for companies that are already big like Pfizer and stuff like that, so they already have like they are already a huge brand, but a lot of companies are still coming up and stuff like that. So they need to develop that brand image and have that sort of rapport with their audience and the patients and the healthcare workers who would be actually using their products, right? So you need to develop that brand image and build that sort of trust with your audience, and then you start to promote the product or services. Once you have that kind of rapport with your audience, you see who the target audience is and who needs your product and services, and then you start promoting your product or services to that target audience, and then you spread awareness among the consumers that this is something that also exists in the world, and if you are suffering from some XYZ problem, and if this product, like our product, helps solve that problem. So you spread awareness among consumers that you also exist in the world and people can come to you for that specific problem for the solution, right? So that is what you do. Okay, so these are some of the materials that are commonly used in medico-marketing. We'll discuss white papers, slide decks, and posters in a great detail towards the end, but we'll see like a few 2-3 pointers on the remaining of the materials that are used, like flyers, brochures, sales training manuals, patient education materials. A lot of this stuff, if you I'm not sure how many of you come from like a medical hospital background, but I'm sure most of these things what they are. Like you must have seen patient education materials in the clinics, hospitals, or if you are from a pharma sector, you must know what sales training manuals are and stuff like that. So most of these things you might already know. We'll just go over them like quickly and see like a little bit of pointers here and there, right? So let's start with brochures. Okay, so with brochures is so what brochures are mainly used for? Sharing promotional material, right? So it's like a new company has come up, a new hospital has come up, a new clinic has come up, and they want to spread awareness among the public about the services that they offer, about the the doctors that are there and stuff like that. So that is when they use brochures, and this is mainly used for like sharing promotional material about the services that you offer and stuff like that, right? So these can either be in print or online. A lot of the medical marketing is now shifting to online, so a lot of this stuff is now available in online as well. but these can be in the print form as well, like the brochures and the pamphlets that come with the newspapers and stuff like that. All of that like comes in this category. So brochure design is usually, it can be varied, of course. Like it can be depending on what you need, how much stuff you want to tell to people. It can be different, but it's usually like a 3-fold or a 6-panel brochure that folds up, and you can that can be easily distributed and stuff like that. Okay, so what do we do in brochures is that we can talk about the new services that are coming up, or we can answer like FAQs, like if there's a disease like diabetes, and many people have diabetes now, so many people want to know a lot of similar questions about diabetes, and they want to know the answers to that. So we can also use brochures for answering those FAQs. And we can also use brochures for promoting health material, like articles like how to lose weight maybe, or how to maintain a better health, stuff like that. So we can also use brochures for things like that, right? After that, there's flyers and LBLs. LBLs are leave behind literature, basically. So these are like mini posters. So they rely on text to get their message across. Like they do have, like, as you can see, that they do have like certain images and stuff like that, but they also use a lot of text. So these are usually like a one sheet thing, and they use a lot of text to tell the audience key what it is that you are promoting, right? So basically these are used by you might have seen them in hospitals, like when MRs come to promote a drug or a device or something like that. They usually have flyers or leave behind literatures with them, which basically they can leave with the doctor for them to go through them and actually see what the service they are offering, and what are the actual benefits, and what are the actual specifications of the services, or the drug or the medical device that they are offering, right? So these are something that you very commonly see in the hospitals or clinics, when MRs come and leave them behind. So that is why these LBLs or flyers, they are usually seen in print. These can be online, these can be mailed as well, yes, but these are usually seen in print because, like, MRs and sales representatives, they come and leave all these literatures behind for the doctors to know more about the drug and be able to prescribe it for their patients, right? And these are very cheap, and these can be mailed as well, like sent by post and stuff like that. So it's a very cheap way of getting your point across, right? Okay, so the next thing is sales training manuals. So what sales training manuals are basically like these MRs and sales representatives that come to the hospitals and stuff like that. So though they usually have to be trained, right? They have to be told about the drugs and what all specifications there are, and what all kind of benefits the device or the drugs has, what is it used for, and stuff like that. So all of these are a part of sales training manuals. So there's visual aids are also part of sales training manuals, which is basically the the booklet that a lot of MRs carry, that they show the doctor drugs on, like this is the drug that we're offering, also this is the drug, like they have 2-3 drugs or more drugs, and they can like simply show the doctors that this is the drug that we're offering for this disease. So that is what visual aids are, and these are also used for sales training manuals, right, for training MRs and sales representatives to actually be able to tell the doctor what the services they are offering, right? Okay. So patient education material, like I said, is these are usually like FAQs that people have, like suppose you're endocrinologist, right? So you very often deal with people who have diabetes, right? So and diabetes also is a comorbidity for a lot of stuff, like there's hypertension, there's diabetes, and all of this usually happen, lifestyle diseases usually happen together, right? So instead of having to tell the patients again and again the same things, like telling them again and again, doctors can choose to like print pamphlets about the FAQs, or anything that the doctors want to know if they're prescribing a drug to the patients, and there's that is a drug that is usually prescribed, for example, metformin, right? So the doctors can have printed pamphlets and stuff like that, that, details how to take the drug, how to, when to take the drug, and how often to take the drug, stuff like that. Like, that stuff patients also need to remember, right? So if a doctor explains to a patient that, this is how you take the drug, and you take it before lunch or after lunch and stuff like that, but it's very, it is possible that the patients might forget, right? So that is when, like, the doctors can give away these pamphlets, or, you know, these patient education materials that can help the doctors and the patients to take their drugs in, like, the right way and stuff like that, right? So this can also range from a lot of stuff. This was just an example that I was giving you. You can basically, any patient education material, it's pretty self-explanatory, that anything that you want to tell your patients comes under patient education material. And this obviously has to be written in a very layman language, so that, your patients can actually understand you. You don't have to write it in a scientific manner, so that, because it's the patients that are your target audience. So you have to keep that in mind, right? Okay, so case studies and consumer success stories. These are basically short write-ups. These are basically testimonials that, patients who use your service or use your product and drug or anything, and they are telling you how it benefited them and stuff like that. So nowadays we usually use it in social media, like in online platforms, because most companies now have a website, and, they can just tell their target audience, and these are the people who have used our product and they were benefited in so and so way, right? So that is what case studies and consumer success stories mean. So the thing with consumer stories and success stories is that, they usually have a summary in the end, which, like, basically summarizes what how it helped the patients, right? So they have to follow, like, a logical flow of content. So we start with customer, which is basically who the target audience is. Then the challenge, which is basically what the problem was that the customer was facing. Their journey throughout the disease, like, suppose, a patient has diabetes and he didn't know how to go about it before he started taking metformin and stuff like that. So their journey through the problem that they were facing, right? And then discovery, right? So how they discovered your product. When you work as a medical marketer, you are probably going to be working for, like, pharmaceutical companies or companies that promote products like this. So you have to keep yourself in their shoes, like, think as they would think, right? And you have to prepare your materials in such a way that you can reach an audience and, convince them that your product is the one that they need, right? So then we talk about discovery in case studies, which is basically how the patient came across your product, right? And then the solution, what is it that your product offers to patients, right? And then implementation and results, right? How the patient started taking the medication or any product, that started using the product that you're promoting, and what were the results, and how it benefited the patient, right? And then you end it with a summary, right? Okay. So next we'll move on to, one second. Yeah. So next we have press releases. So press releases are basically written by the organization, right? So these are not news technically. These are suppose you're the company you're working for, has come up with a new product, and they have new information to share about, or they have new information to share about an existing product, and they want to, make it more official and stuff like that. So that is when the companies will release a press releases. These are sent to the news people, so they can, like, make that into news and send it across to their audience. But these are actually written by the companies or the organizations that are, promoting that product, right? So in many cases, you will be the ones writing these press releases, right? That is what being a medical marketer means, right? All this, all the content, so as to say, that organization can need, that is where you come in, right? So you will have to make the press releases and send them across to the news, deliver them and those are sent across to the newsroom to turn into a news article, right? So press releases usually have like 9 basic elements. So these have to be included in all press releases. So these are letterhead or logo of the company, the contact information of somebody in the company who can be contacted in cases of any doubt, any discrepancy, any discussion that needs to happen. Then you need to add a caption saying for immediate release, right? Because if it's a trending thing, if it's a new discovery or a new benefit that you have discovered that you want people to know, you can't wait for like 2 months before you tell that, right? So you have to add the caption for immediate release so that they can be published across immediately, right? Then you need to have a headline, and that has to be catchy, and that has to clearly say what your message is, right? And then you can divide the main text into subheadings for better easy reading and stuff like that. Then you need to have a dateline, which is basically the date when the press release is being sent. Then you have the body, and then you have a quote, right? The body is basically all the the main material that you can see in this example as well. So all the information that needs to be given to the news agency, all of that comes in the body. And a quote is basically a quote from one of the company owners or stakeholders or employees there who has the knowledge about really the information that is being sent out. So there need to be a quote to have that sort of repo and trust that somebody from the company is telling something, right? So that needs to be there. And additionally, there needs to be a boilerplate, right? So a boilerplate is basically um, a little paragraph telling what the company is, what it does, what sort of products, like a basic what the company is, right? It's a small paragraph that is typically used very consistently across all social media platforms. So that basically tells you, a little bit about the company, what the company does, when it was established, people working there, the sort of services they provide, stuff like that, right? And last thing that you need to have are hashtag symbols. Okay, so in any press release, when the press release ends, you put hash symbols so that that basically indicates that this is the end of the press release, because you do not want anybody to miss out on any information. If it's on the next page and somebody does not see it, right? So you need to put like a hash symbols at towards the end, which indicates that that is the end of the press release, right? Okay, let's move on to newsletters, right? This is the last thing that we are going to be discussing in this, and then we can go on into discuss in detail about white papers and posters and slides, right? So newsletters, you most probably already know what newsletters are. So this is basically information on stuff that are these are regularly distributed or at regular frequencies. It could be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever. Basically, these are distributed regularly, and these are on common topics like that your target audience wants to know about more. So if a majority of your audience wants to know about how to lose weight, if you are a company promoting lifestyle modification products related to lifestyle modification or stuff like that, and people usually ask you about weight and stuff like that, so that is what you can put in newsletters, that majority of your readers want to know about losing weight and stuff like that. So all of that can be sent across through newsletters, right? So some examples include that you can send latest news related to your product, like if there's a new discovery that was made, like stuff like that. So that can be sent across newsletters. You can send tips on how to lose weight maybe, or stuff like that, right? Or you can send company announcements. If you already have a base um, with your company, like your company already has a base in your audience, and there's a new product that's coming up, or there's a new service that you're offering, that can also be shared across with newsletters. And you can also share testimonials and the customer success stories that we read earlier. So that is all can be shared through newsletters as well. And these are usually shared through email. I'm sure you probably already know about that, right? Okay. Right. So do you guys like want a break or something before we start with white papers, or should I continue?
So participants, please interact. How did you find this interesting? Now we'll proceed ahead with white papers. slide decks and all of that, more of detailed version of it. But then how did you find this information so far? Please let us know. Dr. Anubha is waiting for your responses, so you can put in the chat box. Or if
you can also tell me if you want me to go slower or faster or explain more, anything that, any feedback you have, please let me know.
Yeah, so one word feedback, please, in the chat box. Let's see how many of you want to interact. Yeah, so you can continue.
Right.
All right. Yeah, it was interesting. You can continue. Informative, useful information. Thanks. Continue, ma'am. Okay. Thank you, Gauri. Thank you, Pinky, and all of that. Thank you. We'll continue. Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue with white papers. So we'll be discussing white papers in detail, right? Okay, so let's start. So basically, what are white papers, right? So white papers are basically reports that are specific to the industry, right? These are reports made on industry specific topics, and they are usually more technical. Okay, these can be used for patients as well, but these are more technical, and they are usually made to raise issues and the problems that exist in that specific population or the industry, and then aims to provide the solutions for those problems, right? These can also be made for patients, but these are usually a little bit more technical, and the readers, so these are basically for these can be for healthcare professionals or stakeholders or other company members that need to know about who stakeholders who really do not know what exactly goes on behind the process, but they do have a stake in the company, right? So they do need to know what exactly is happening. So these are the people that white papers are usually aimed towards, and so these are usually like a little bit longer material. So these usually typically range from between 6 pages to 20 pages, right? So these very in detail explain what the problem is and what the solution to the problem is, right? So, and these are great tools for generating credibility, right? So you need to have that sort of trust with your readers, right? So that this is white papers are something that really helps with building that sort of trust with your readers, because you will talk about a problem and you will talk about its solution in great details, right? So, and you can establish yourself as the thought leaders of that particular industry or that particular problem, because you are talking about a problem and talking about its solution, and explaining everything that in great detail with properly research content and stuff like that. So this white papers really help in building up your credibility and building that sort of trust with your readers, right? So these are where white papers are usually used for, right? And okay, these provide like very in-depth knowledge on a specific topic, right? Okay. So the white papers can also be of like a few types. These are like 3 types that are usually used. So first one is like a problem solution white paper, which is basically what I talked about, that you talk about a problem in the industry, and then you also talk about the solution that your products, give, like how your problem benefits the patients or the consumers of your product, right? The second one can be backgrounder white papers, which basically means that you have a product and now you want to tell your readers more about the product. Like you go into the details about the product, and you give like detailed information about the product. So that is when you use like a backgrounder white paper. The third type can be numbered lists, which is basically a step-by-step guide or a list of tips that can be used that pertaining to a specific topic. So in white papers, the most important thing is that you have to like stick to one specific topic and go into the details of it, right? You have to explain everything that you know about that topic really well, like so research properly, and then go about writing the white papers. So you need to really go into the details of the topic, right? So that is where white papers usually help. Okay. So where are white papers typically used in medico marketing, right? So we already basically talked about it. So these are usually used for healthcare professionals or company stakeholders and stuff like that. Basically, individuals who want detailed information on your products, right? So if there's a doctor who wants to prescribe your drug or use your medical device or anything like that, they need to know, a lot about it in detail, because they can't just, just prescribe a drug or tell their patients to use the medical device that you have prepared just because you're telling them to, right? But they need to do their own research, right? See what is it that you're providing. Are there any risks that can come to their patients? Are there any real benefits that are seen with the product that you're providing, right? So these people, like the healthcare professionals, need um, very detailed information on the product that you're providing to them, right? So you can release white papers uh, telling the doctors about everything about your product and everything about your drug, right? So healthcare professionals can include everybody, right? Pharmacists, doctors, nurses, anybody who is in a position to recommend your service or your drug. So, right? You can also educate patients and their caregivers about specific health conditions. This is where, like, the white papers kind of get a little less technical. You don't, go into the exact medical scientific stuff about your services, but you cater to their knowledge level, but you also go into the details of everything that a patient might want to know, right? So if there's a patient, who has some end of life disease or something like that, the caregivers need to know how to, like, take good care of them, make them more comfortable and stuff like that. So you can also use white papers then and tell them about all the treatment options that that are available for their disease, or lifestyle changes that are required, or basically anything and everything that can help the patients live more comfortably, right? This can be anything, right? So this basically does, what your body does is improve the overall health and wellness of the patients, right? So these are basically the two places where white papers can be used in medico-marketing, right? Okay, so let's move on. So now we come to the format of the white papers. But before we start with, with the format of white papers and how to create white papers, we have to understand that writing white papers require like a lot of planning, a lot of research, right? So you need to, the first thing that you need to do is figure out who your target audience is. That is the most important thing that you need to do, because that is honestly true for all kinds of medical marketing materials. You do need to know who your target audience is. Otherwise, if your product is related to diabetes and you're selling it to people with say lung cancer, it doesn't really relate, right? So you have to make sure that you know who your target audience is, right? So you, for that, you have to do a lot of research, a lot of planning that has to be done to figure out who the target audience is and who you want to promote your product is, right? So you have to identify. So once you have figured out who your target audience is, you need to identify their needs, right? Their problems, their preferences, the pain points that they have, the problems, the problems they have from taking a particular drug or using a particular product, right? Like, so the glucometer we have. So a lot of people have problems with, pricking themselves again and again. So that is, these are the kind of things that you need to know about your target audience, right? So you have, for this, you have to like do a lot of research, right? So you have to conduct market research, know what your patients, want, what are the problems that they are suffering from. You have to analyze the customer data that comes, you have to do that. And then also you have to engage in conversations with the patients and actually come to know what their problems is. You have to also engage in conversations with the company stakeholders, and like, all of this needs to be done to finally like figure out what the problem is in the target audience that you are targeting towards, basically. And that is when you choose a relevant topic for your white paper, right? All of this is done, and then you choose a relevant topic um, for your white paper, and then you start researching again, right? You start researching on that topic, you gather all the information that you can about that topic, and you organize that information in um, in a way that you can understand, right? It can't be like all over the place, and then you think that you'll start writing a white paper now. Don't do that. It takes a lot of time and effort to, do that if you are not clear on your message and, are not organized with your information, right? So you choose your target audience, identify their needs, and then basically choose your relevant topic, gather all the information that you can on that topic, and also please make sure that you gather information from like reliable sources, because you can't, just go on Google and, gather information. All of the resources have to be reliable, and they have to be referenced, right? So you have to gather all your information from very reliable sources and then organize your information in a way that you can understand. That is for yourself. And after all of that is done, that is when you can actually start preparing a white paper. And that is what we're going to look now, how to prepare a white paper, right? What are the basic parts of a white paper that need to be there, right? So once all of that is done, you start with the heading or a working title. Heading or a headline or a working title, right? So you have to understand that a heading is the most important thing, okay? And this is not just for white papers, this is for a lot of medical marketing material or anything basically that you write, that, any blog, any white paper that you write, the first thing that any reader would see is the heading, right? So this is the most important thing that you have to take care of. So your heading should be very clear, right? It should have a very clear message. It should convey very clearly what your product is, what its benefit is, and who it's meant for, right? So you have to be very clear about that. It has to be crisp and very clear, okay? um a few other things that you should keep in mind while preparing a heading is that, use a professional tone. It's white papers are like a professional technical document, so be sure to use professional tones, right? Don't be very casual with the usage of words. Other than that, use active voice, like use actionable verbs. Don't use passive voice. So I'm sure you guys know what active and passive voice is, right? So thing is ki active voice is basically using verbs while, telling what you're doing. Like instead of saying the study was conducted by doctors, say the doctors conducted the study, right? Doctors conducted the study is active voice, and the study was conducted by doctors is passive voice. So you always want to use active voice while writing anything that you do, right? So that is also one thing that you should keep in mind while writing the headline. And it's better to add, like numbers and statistics to make it more catchy. Like you want to make your headline really catchy so that people, they just read the headline and they're like, okay, I want to read what they're trying to say, right? So you can use statistics to add more flavor to your headline. But these have to be very well researched. You just can't randomly put statistics anywhere. These have to be true, okay? So one example could be, if there's like company who's trying to help the telemedicine clinics that have come up since COVID, right? To, get more patients and stuff like that. So one headline that they can use is, like how to get more patients, right? So what they can do is use statistics, somewhat like how to increase your patients by 50% in 2023, right? This sounds like a very good headline for somebody who's trying to get more patients and more, footfall in their clinic, right? So basically you have to catch the your audience's attention with the headline. Your headline has to be, the one that people read and they're like, okay, now I have to read this thing, right? So you have to make sure of that. So another thing that really helps with a good headline is knowing the difference between a value and a product, okay? So a product is something that you are offering to the public, right? A value is something that the product offers. You get what I'm trying to say? So basically, if you say that, metformin can be used for diabetes, right? So metformin here is the product, but metformin can be used for diabetes because it lowers blood sugar levels. That is the value. That is the value of the product, right? So you have to. So it's better to sell value to people rather than the product, because since all of this is very technical, a lot of people don't really know what it does, right? So it's better to sell the value of your product to the patient. That will always be better. So, try incorporating that value of the product in your headlines, right? So instead of just saying that, buy our metformin, say that, you can like buy a metformin because it reduces the blood sugar level by this much and stuff like that. So always try to sell value to people, right? Always keep that in mind. So another thing is a similar thing related to this, a little bit more explanation on that is if you have a product, right? So there are three things. You can remember this by the acronym FAB, FAB, right? So basically, if you have a product, so F stands for feature, right? So what the product you have, what is the feature that the product has, right? So it can features are basically an adjective that you use to describe the product, right? That you can have, anything that the product does. So if we, take anti-diabetic, like blood sugar lowering drug only, right? So the feature of the drug that I'm trying to sell is that it has a higher concentration, right, than the other drugs available in the market, right? So that is the feature of the product that I'm trying to sell. So what is the advantage of the product, right? So A stands for advantage. So this was the feature. Now what is the advantage of the product, right? So advantage means that fine, your drug has higher concentration of the molecule, right? But so what? Like what does it do, right? So that is where advantage comes in. So advantage is basically, okay, my drug has like a higher concentration. So you don't, if the other drugs can be taken like have to be taken like twice a day, our drug like needs to be taken only once a day because it has a higher concentration. So it can be taken like once a day. That is the advantage that your feature has. Okay. Now the third part, which is B, which is benefit, right? So fine, your product has this feature. This feature gives you this advantage, right? But how does this advantage actually benefit the patients? So when you say that your product needs to be taken only once a day, so what benefit does it give to the patient? That they do not need to take medicines again and again. They can just take one medicine a day and be done with it, right? So that is the benefit to the patients, right? So basically what you want to try is that you want to sell benefit to the patients, right? Because they don't understand what mean what having a higher concentration or having to take it once a day means, right? You have to sell the benefit that your product gives to the patient. So you have to do that. So try incorporating the benefit your product has in the headline so that the patients or the target audience can relate with it. And this can change obviously. Like the example I gave was very for layman people, for patients. But if your target audience is doctors, you need to change your headline according to that, right? So always keep that in mind. Okay. So the next thing we have is an executive summary, which is basically like an abstract, right? So this is like a short paragraph that basically summarizes everything that is in the white paper, right? So these are typically 200 to 300 words, and they have to like briefly describe whatever you say in the paper, but you have to ensure that you include all the main points, make it clear, make it very crisp, very, use as little words as possible. Do not try to explain anything. Just keep it to the point and explain all the needs that your product, fulfills and how it provides solutions to the patients, right? So that is what you need to have. The next thing we have is like the main body of the white papers. So we have introduction in the main body, right? So again, introduction is another very important part of your white papers because once your reader has read your headline, right, and they are like, okay, fine, I want to read this paper. Now introduction does a similar thing, right? So they want to they'll start reading your white paper and they'll decide in the introduction itself if they want to continue, right? So you have to make the introduction very catchy as well, but this also has to be very professional and technical. You can't just put random stuff to make it catchy, right? So you have to put all the interesting information in the beginning of the introduction, right? So there's one theme that we usually follow. It's basically called an inverted pyramid theme. So basically what it means is that you put the most important points and the most important thing that you want in the first lines of the introduction, right? And then you can slowly start detailing about and going deeper into it, right? So if you are suppose writing a paper on drugs related to diabetes, right? So instead of starting your introduction with, the diabetes is, is so prevalent in the world and it's increasing, etc., etc. Start with what your white paper is about. Start that you have a new drug that, does what, gives what benefits to the patient, right? And then once you have clarified this, then you can go into the details of it and how, talk about epidemiology of diabetes and what are problems the patients face. That all you can do, right? So always keep in mind that you have to follow like an inverted pyramid, method of writing introduction, so that the patients or your readers can, keep be hooked to your white paper and just keep reading, right? So that should be done. One, right. So other than that, when you come to the other parts of your body, so you have the main body of your paper that has to be divided into sections. Use subheadings, right? So use small paragraphs, right? Use very easy to like understand language, okay? And like it can be technical, right? It can use technical words and stuff like that, but it has to be easy to understand. You don't need to like showcase your English proficiency or how English right? You have to explain your point to the readers. So keep the language simple, use technical words as necessary, keep dividing your main body into sections, use subheadings, to divide the sections, and always try to keep your paragraphs, like those paragraphs, they should always have one idea, right? So one idea per paragraph. Your paragraph, like if you're trying to convey something, it should not ideally go more than a paragraph, right? And other than that, you can, use other bullet points, lists, tables, stuff like that, right? So you can make it as interesting and as easy to read for the reader as possible. So one trick that we follow here again is that, so there are a few studies that have shown like how the readers actually read stuff. So most readers actually follow like an F pattern while reading. So basically they'll read the entire first few lines, then or read half of the next few lines and then just scroll downwards, right? So it makes like an F. So you have to prepare your write-ups and your white papers in such a way that you follow this F pattern, right? So make your introduction and the opening lines very catchy and very, very informative, so that that is when the readers are actually reading the entire thing, and then their attention keeps on decreasing. And as you go down, keep, provide as many lists points as you can, because that is what the reader is actually scanning. Then towards the end and the middle of the article, that's where, the reader's attention is. They just want to see points, 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 right? And then you can like give a list, and then you can expand on those points if you think that, those need more detail. And if the readers think that, they want to know more about that specific point, then they can, go and read that. So basically introduce and, include as many lists and bullet points as you possibly can, right? So the next part is the conclusion, pretty self-explanatory, like which basically, summarizes whatever you have said above, like the entire thing. It basically summarizes everything that has been said above. One important thing to keep in mind while writing a conclusion is to always include a CTA, a call to action, right? So that is how you actually like, so you have a white paper, somebody read it, okay, then what, right? So that your CTA is actually the one that will ensure that the readers actually turn into, your customers, right? So you can add any call to action. It can be very varied, and there can be different call to actions. So it can be, as simple as you provide something, some link to attend a webinar, or you give out your number to contact you in case of more information that is required, or you uh, give out a link to visit. If it's a service that you're providing, you give out a link to visit these your site, and book a service and things like that. So basically it has to be any call to action that promotes the readers to actually book your service or try your product, right? So that has to be included in the conclusion. And lastly, sidebars. So sidebars are basically like little spaces in the side of your white papers that are usually used to, like give out more interesting information that you cannot put in the main part, right? Or these can also be used to add graphs or charts, or if there's data involved, like if you're talking about a drug or things like that, there's usually data involved, how it affects the patients, what it does, right? So you can add all of those interesting stuff, add sidebars, and this also makes your white papers look very visually appealing, and also keeps your readers attention there, right? If there's a lot of text on the white paper, it is likely that the reader might get distracted and stop reading. But if there's pictures, graphs, and stuff like that, they will they are more likely to keep reading your paper. So it's ideal that you provide at least one sidebar per page of your white paper, right? So per section, right? So do that, okay? And yeah, that's pretty much about it. But also remember that you can't just don't put any random picture in the sidebars just to make it more interesting. They have to be very relevant to the topic, right? Because again, it's a very technical document, so all of the things that you put in the sidebars have to be very specific, very pertaining to the topic that you're talking about, right? So always keep that in mind. Okay, so I think that is it for white papers, right? So do you guys want to ask something, or is there anything else that you want to tell me? So please feel free to put that in the chat box.
Yes, participants, both on YouTube and Zoom, please do interact. Do you have any questions on white papers? Let's, continue with the Q&A and then continue with the next topic. This will also give Dr. Anubha a little break, and then we'll continue with the session.
Yeah.
So Dr. Anubha, you may just have a glass of water or something,
Yes.
and then we'll just see. So participants, do you have any questions on white papers? Did you find this interesting? White papers are very important for pharmaceutical companies, especially for the companies that produce samples, standards, and raw materials, herbal products, market other APIs. For them, they are very, very important, right? And understanding white papers will help us to write them better. And Dr. Anubha actually gave the complete outline of how a white paper can be created. So I'm sure all of us will find it very useful. Do let us know if you found that useful, or if you have any questions, you may put in the chat box, or you can also raise your virtual hand. I'll unmute you, and then you may ask your question on white papers, and then we'll continue with the slide decks. So another 10 seconds I'll give. If you have any questions, please do ask, and give me a thumbs up if you want to ask anything, and then I'll unmute you. Anyone wants to ask any question? I'm just checking on YouTube and also on Zoom. Anyone wants to ask any question, just give me a thumbs up or just put in the chat box. I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions in mind, but the only thing is that's a very common one. Yeah, though we have questions, we don't want to somehow, and just manage with that. All right, no questions. Type NQ if there are no questions. Let's see if there are no questions in the mind. Or only I have a lot of questions in mind, probably. Okay, so maybe I'll ask one question to Dr. Anubha. Dr. Anubha, in your experience, whether you found white papers written, mostly by the pharmaceutical industry or by the companies that produce only APIs?
So in my experience, I've actually worked mostly with pharmaceutical companies. So I have come across like a lot of white papers that they produce. I am yet to work with other companies, that produce APIs. So I have come across like a lot of pharmaceutical companies that do produce white papers.
Yeah, I was working on a couple of them where they are producing the standards, for marketing to other companies. Mostly, herbaceuticals, nutraceuticals type of companies. Yeah, all right. So looks like there are no questions. Participants are just relaxing and enjoying. So it's okay. We'll continue with the session. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, we'll start with the slides then, right?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, now we are going to talk about slide decks and PPTs. Basically, what you are seeing right now is basically a slide deck, right? So we'll mostly talk about like CME slide decks and how we use it for medical marketing and stuff like that, right? So let's get into it then. So what are CME slide decks? Like I said, that these are basically PPT slides that have like give a visual experience to the people who are watching the slides. Like I can sit here and keep talking about stuff, but the slides help me portray my point a little bit better, so that if somebody wants to take notes or I want to show people something, I can put pictures and stuff like that. So basically, it just helps me give my presentation a little bit better, right? So the thing about CME, like slide decks, basically, then that they have to be themed on a single objective, right? You have to choose your topic and then stick to it. You can't, randomly put slides everywhere relating to everything that comes to your mind, because that won't make any sense, right? So you have to stick to a single objective and prepare all your slides on that objective. Okay. So, and the CME slide deck should be like an add-on to the words you're speaking. So they shouldn't contain like a lot of words and I just, read whatever is written on the slides and be done with it. You have to like give a better visual experience to your viewers, so that, they understand what you're trying to say better, right? And with slide decks, so slide decks are usually used like CME basically means continued medical education, right? So basically, you have these slide decks, CME slide decks, are used to provide like healthcare professionals with the up-to-date information in their relative fields, right? So we, for somebody who's doing radiology or cardiology or stuff like that, we can always read books, right? But the books are written a little bit in the past, right? But if there's new updates coming every day, right? So CME slide decks are used for conferences and stuff like that can help keep the healthcare professionals updated with all the relevant information in their specific field, right? These can also be used to promote, whatever specific products or services that you want to have. Like you can hold a conference or and then um, project your PowerPoint like slide decks and explain what your product is and what the services that are you're providing, right? So basically, pretty self-explanatory. I'm pretty sure you already know what a PPT does, right? So right. So where are the CME slide decks basically used in medical marketing? So like I said, these are very commonly used in medical conferences. If you are, a doctor or practice, you probably have been to one of these conferences where a doctor talks about, the new things that are happening in your specific industry and stuff like that, right? And to tell you more about it and how to new treatments that are coming up, new methods of surgical treatments, stuff like that. Basically, update your knowledge, gain more knowledge about your field, right? These can also be used in online webinars, which is basically what we're doing right now. So I could be talking to the camera just like that, but having a presentation gives me, a better way of conveying my idea to you, right? So these can be used in online webinars. So slide decks can also be used to like present study findings. So if you conducted a study or you want to explain the study findings to your viewers, then you can prepare a slide deck and prepare a slide deck in that particular format, right? With the abstract background, introduction, like the introduction and the methods that were followed, what results were there, and what's the final conclusion of the study. In that particular um, format, the slide decks can be prepared and that can be showcased to your viewers, using like visual aids like graphs and charts. You can project that on the screen and explain to people like what the study finding did, right? These are also used in meetings with healthcare professionals. So if there's a company that wants to promote their product, they want to tell the doctors or other healthcare professionals what the product is, what it actually benefits, how does it benefit the patients and stuff like that. All the little details that need to be said, that can also be done through CME slide decks, right? And also these can be like distributed through email or social media, right? So the webinar that we are having right now, that is also being broadcasted on YouTube, which I didn't know about, but yeah, so that can also be done, right? So these are where we basically use the CME slide decks. Okay. So, so we'll start with like how to create good CME slide decks, right? Um, I don't want to go into a little more about CME slide decks because it's most people know what PPTs are, so it's no point going much more about it. So let's just start with how to create good CME slide decks, right? So the first point is that you have to consider your content first, what you want to convey to your viewers, and then the slides, right? So uh, so as we were growing up, right, a lot of us have been taught PPTs at school. So we were too much into transitions and stuff like that, how to make it cool and things. So we don't want to do that anymore. Basically, we want to consider what is that we want to convey to our audience, and then we can think about what is the sort of slides that will help us to portray that better, right? So you have to think about your content first, and then you can use the PPTs and the slides to convey that content in a better way. Like use the PPTs and slides as an aid and not as the main objective, right? So you have to have a very clear idea on what you're trying to say to your viewers, right? So you have to have a very clear idea of the message that you want to portray. Then you need to start gathering evidence and all the information that you want to portray. Basically, what you did with white papers, right? You need to have all the information with you before you start preparing the slides. Organize them in a better way, like so that it's easier for you to actually start preparing the slides. What I would suggest for that is like prepare a rough outline before you actually start preparing the slides. Like when you start in on a blank PPT, you can just uh, make a first slide telling what are the learning objectives of the PPT, what is that you want to tell your viewers. Just write them down in bullet points, and that serves like an outline for the rest of your PPT, right? You can add more details to it as per your convenience, like, right? So then you can start preparing for the first objective and what you want to tell your viewers, and then you can start preparing the slides, right? It um, uh, saves a lot of time and effort if you do this. Like if you just randomly start with slide and just start with the first topic that you have in mind, your mind will also keep diverting here and there, and it takes a lot of time and effort. So it's better to have a basic outline in front of you, and then you can basically start preparing all your slides, right? And you have to also keep in mind that the content has to be timed well, right? It should not be too long, and it should not also be like too short that it ends in like 15 minutes, right? You have to make sure that it can end in 15 minutes if that's what you're aiming for. But basically, you have to see what is it, like what's the time you want, and then you have to time your content properly according to that, right? So the next thing is that you should use like a consistent layout, right? So what do I mean by a consistent layout? Like all slides of your uh, slide deck should follow like a similar theme, right? So one very easy way of doing it that is to like there are multiple pre-made templates that you can use. Just use one of them because they just ensure that all of the slides have the same template or the same theme, and then you can just keep adding information, and you don't have to worry about the styling and fonts and colors of the slide, right? So just use a pre-made theme. There are multiple themes available now, so you can just use any theme that you like, and you have to make sure that all of your slides basically fall are in this consistent layout, right? So you use similar font and colors for like I have used like black, orange, and white, right? That's basically the theme of my slides. So I have used these three colors throughout, right? So basically choose the fonts and the colors you want to use and just stick to them, right? Don't keep changing it on every next slide, right? So the next thing is that you want to have less transitions. Like I said, like we don't want our presentation to look cool. Like it's nice if it looks cool, but it has to be basically what you're trying to say, right? Don't put too much transitions, like text coming from here or images coming from there, right? Because it really diverts the reader's attention, and that is not what you're aiming for. You want the reader to know what you're like trying to say, right? So keep the transitions as minimal as possible and just focus on the content that want to say. If you want to use transitions, make sure that these transitions like help elevate your slide decks, right? So say if you want to portray a study result or something like that, and you want to say how drug A was better than drug B or something like that, right? So first that is where you can use transitions, right? So you can show how like the drug A helped, and then you can use a transition to show how drug B helped and stuff like that. So basically use transitions, but use them, in an intelligent manner that elevates your slide decks and not, takes away from the content, right? So keep that in mind always, right? So the other thing is that use like minimal text, like use less text as concise as possible. Use just the keywords, because if I'm talking and if there's like too much text on the screen, that your brain, like our brains, cannot listen to what I'm saying and also read what's on the slides at the same time, right? So you want people to be able to listen to you, right? So the slides are basically just a way of aiding that, right? So use minimal text, just the keywords, right? And you don't need to like overfill your slides with a lot of text. But if you do need to, like if there's a case that you do need to like put a lot of text, right? Because there's just no way that you can do with minimal text, you need to put a lot of text. So one tip that you can use that time is that instead of just putting the entire text at the same time, what you can do is you can use transitions here and actually make your text come one after the other, right? So you can use transitions to make sure that only the first sentence comes first, right? When you click uh, and then you can talk about that particular point, and then the next sentence comes, and then you can talk about that, and so on. So that is one tip that you can use if you have to use like transitions and a lot of text, right? So use that if you do have to use a lot of text. So next thing is that you should use images, and this is pretty self-explanatory. As much as like again, these images have to be very uh, completely like in sync with the topic. Just don't randomly use images just because you should use images in slide decks. Use images that are pertaining to your topic. They help the reader understand something better. If you want to give an example, show something to the reader, show a graph of actions of drugs and stuff like that. That is when you can use images. Use a lot of images, but make sure that they are very specific to the topic that you're trying to say, right? The other thing is that do not use autoplay for videos. Okay, so if you have a video in your slide, it's never a good idea to use autoplay. Autoplay is basically when you like, if I change the slide right now, and if there's a video after the slide, it'll automatically start playing. You don't want to do that, because you want to maybe talk about the video first. You want to tell, give a premise as to what the video is. You want to tell your audience that this is what the video will be showing and stuff like that. And if you just change it and it is an autoplay, and you just start playing without any context, right? So you preferably do not want to do that. You have an option where you can choose that the video starts when you click it. So choose that always, right? And the other thing is that include charts and graphs, which we have already talked about. It's always good to use visual aids for whatever you're trying to say. So always use charts and graphs, again specific to your topic. You have to make sure that the content is what the slide has, right? It does not have to be super cool or super very catchy or something, but the content has to be great. Okay, so make sure that you do all of that, right? Okay, right. So we'll start with posters now. If you have any doubts right now, you can tell us that, or we can just start, like let us know what you want me to do, and we'll start with posters then.
Yeah, participants, you want to share any thoughts on the two inputs that Dr. Anubha has already shared, or you have any questions? You want to have any clarifications on these two inputs? Otherwise, we'll move on to posters. I'm surprised no one wants to ask anything. No one wants to interact. Very, very surprising. Okay. Let's continue, Dr. Anubha. Let's see if they add something in the meantime.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with posters now. Posters. I'm pretty sure you know what posters are. These are like large printed sheets that you usually see telling you about the information that so if you visit like a hospital or a clinic, there's usually a lot of posters in the waiting room basically telling them about, if like the doctor is an ophthalmologist, probably talk about common diseases that occur, like glaucoma and cataract and stuff like that. So there'll be information about cataract, stuff like that. So basically, you know what posters are, right? So these are very large printed sheets, and they usually have very limited content in terms of like text. They usually aim to tell the audience what they want to say based on images. Like they have a lot of big images, right, and a lot of big text because it's usually in like a public space, right? So you should be able to read the text, right? So these are very large printed sheets posted mainly in like public spaces or private workplaces. Can also have posters. There's like waiting rooms in private areas that can have posters of anything that you want to convey, right? So they, like I said, usually carry information in illustrative format, images and stuff like that, and use very limited text, right? So they basically serve as a visual aid and help to promote your brand, increase awareness about your brand and stuff like that. So if say I have a patient who I need to take to a clinic, right? So or I'm just accompanying them to a clinic. So they, while they are, being treated and stuff like that, I'm sitting in the waiting room and I can just check out the posters and stuff like that. So that posters help in creating that brand image in terms of, for me, right? For somebody who didn't really know about that place before, right? And you can talk about almost anything that, pertains to your field, right? So basically you can um, give a lot of information to people in like public spaces, right? So that is where all of the posters are used. And so actually this is not a very good example of a poster. That is why I chose to put this up. So um, you want to have like a lot of images, a lot of visual aids in your posters, and little text, right? Less text and more images, and your text should be very, like large fonts and bright colors so that they can be read easily and understood easily, right? So you have to take care of all those things when you prepare posters. We'll talk about all of that a little bit in more detail in the next few slides. So let's move on. So these are some of the places that you can put up your posters. So basically, you have to again identify your target audience first. That who are you, preparing the posters for. This is actually true for any medical marketing material that you prepare. You have to identify the target audience and choose which medical marketing material would be the best way to reach your audience, right? Like if your target audience is like somebody sitting in a waiting room with a patient, you can go around, give them pamphlets, but that doesn't really you know have that sort of an impact that a poster can. And also it would not make sense logistically, right? Why would you give out pamphlets there, right? So then you can just put up a poster and uh, cater to a large number of people with just one poster, right? So you have to choose your medical marketing material with the target audience, according to the target audience and the kind of place that you want to influence them at, right? So these are usually public or private places which have a high traffic of your target audience. So examples could be, like I said, examination or waiting rooms in clinics and hospitals, community health centers, right? So there's a lot of public information, like patient information, that is put up on posters in community health centers that can help people know about the other diseases that are common and can read about it and like be aware about stuff like that, right? One thing also that you have to keep in mind is like our community health centers are usually in like regional languages, like they cater to a very specific general population, right? So putting up posters in English there probably would not make sense, right? So you have to take all of this in mind when you choose your target audience and choose how to convey your message to them, right? So keep all of that in mind, right, when you prepare any medical marketing material, right? So posters can also be put up in conferences, right? So if you want to prepare, like if you are presenting a study, uh, right, and so you can have a poster for your study that can be divided into, again, like the Imbrad format with introduction, methods, results, and whatever discussions and the results that your study has. So you can put up that in conferences and people can just walk by and see what your study is about and what it did. So that is also where posters can be used. Other than that, you must have seen like a lot of posters in public transport or public bulletin boards everywhere. Um, telling people about different products or services that your company might provide, or just different health education materials, like talking about different diseases or how to uh, prevent certain diseases, right? So all of this can be done using posters. So one thing that you should take care of is that you have to choose your target audience and then place your posters according to where they might be, right? So like, suppose your target audience is like young adults, right? Like um, people between the ages of say 20 to 25, and you want to talk about STDs and stuff like that. So going to college fests, right, and having a poster there makes more sense, right? Because that is where like there's going to be like high influx of your target audience, right? So that is something that you should keep in mind while preparing posters and deciding where to put them up. Okay. Now that is all, honestly, usually the company will, as a medical marketer, the company who is designing the posters would already tell you like where they aim to put the posters and who the target audience is. So that is something that you might not have to do, but then prepare the posters according to that, right? So yeah, that's what we are going to discuss next, right? So now we can talk about like how to actually create posters. So with posters, the main thing is that your objective should be very clear, right? So you have to be very clear what you're trying to communicate to your target audience, right? So that is something that you have to be very clear on, right? So what can help you decide on that is asking yourself two questions, right? So first question is, what are you promoting, right? So if you have a product or a service, so you have to, very be clear about what is it that you're promoting, right? That'll give you like a clear idea as to who is your target audience, and how you should like reach them, right? So you should be very clear on that. The next question is that what is the change that you want to see? Like, okay, fine, you have a product that you want to promote, right? But you have to be also very clear on what is the benefit or the change that that product will make in the lives of the patients or the your target audience, right? So ask yourself these two questions to have a clear idea as to how to go about preparing the posters, right? So the next thing you have to do is that you have to make sure that you get down to the level of your audience. You understand what I'm trying to say? You have to. So if your poster is aimed at general public, right? You can't use a lot of scientific terms. You can't use like a lot of medical jargon because the general public will not understand that, right? So you have to get down to the level of your audience and then use images and text accordingly, right? That can be understood by your target audience. Similarly, if you're, maybe or if your target audience is healthcare professionals, and if you make a poster saying, smoking is injurious to health or drinking is injurious to health, that is too, layman for them. They already know this, right? So then you have to choose that you have to, use scientific words, you have to use medical terminology. So always keep in mind to get down to the level of your target audience, and then you can, you know, prepare your posters. And based on all of these factors that we discussed, make sure that you always prepare a medically accurate statement, right? I cannot stress this enough. This is the most important thing. You cannot put random facts, you cannot put, inaccurate stuff in your posters or any medical marketing material for that matter. That is why you have to choose your, information from reliable sources. You have to reference them. You have to do all of that because you have to like have to prepare like a medically accurate statement. There can be absolutely no, going around this, right? So always make sure you do that. So we have already talked about this, so I'll just go through this quickly. So how do you understand your target audience? You profile, you get to know about the product and what are the services and the benefits that they can have. You profile your target audience, and then you see if the audience that needs that service, who are going through problems that can be solved by their service or product. That's how you define your target audience, right? And then, as I talked about earlier, you get down to their level and use language suitable for that audience, right? So that is something you always have to do, right? It will make no sense if you use medical terminology for general people, because they won't understand anything, and it makes no sense, right? So always keep all of this in mind. Okay, so how to create posters, right? So the first thing is that you have to develop the concept, right? So now you have your product. Now you know who your target audience is. Now you know what is the problem that you're trying to solve and how your product solves that problem, right? So now you try and develop the concept of your poster. Like, how do you want to showcase all of that information that you have? You have to showcase that in a very innovative, nice way, right? So that is when you develop the concept. So for developing the concept, you brainstorm ideas, like keeping everything that we have learned till now in mind. You brainstorm ideas and then you prepare like a rough draft of what the poster should look like, right? And you create a concept with images and pictures and text as well, right? You see what kind of images would look good. You start putting them, create a rough draft, like right, and then you develop the concept. And please do not do this like sitting in, at in one sitting, doing it in an hour, and being like, okay, the concept is done. Take your time with it. Take as much time as you want. Do it over a couple of days so that you can, come and have a look at it with always with like a fresh perspective. If you have a team, like if you develop the concept and take the concept to your team members, show them the draft and ask them for their input, take their input and incorporate changes as and when you feel necessary and stuff like that. Basically, take your time with the draft, like the concept, and like have multiple perspectives on it, even if it's just your own, just sleep over it, look at it the next day and see if it still makes sense, right? So after that you're done, you can, start collecting information, pictures and graphics. You absolutely need to have like posters, have a lot of pictures, a lot of graphics, images, like catchy images that will, grab the reader's attention quickly, stuff like that. So add your pictures and graphics to your draft, right? And then you can write the headline of your poster. Again, the headline is very, very important. As we talked with white pages, headline is always the most important thing. It will decide if, the your reader will even read what you're trying to say, even, see your poster. All of that will be decided in like split seconds as soon as, your reader reads the headline, looks at the pictures, right? So your headline has to be catchy, has to be targeted to your audience, right? So make sure you do that. And then when all of that is done, your draft is ready. You can like lay out the final copy. You can move stuff around. You can see what pictures, where do you want to place the pictures? Where do you want to add the text, right? So you can move around stuff and make it more visually appealing for your audience, right? So do that. And the last thing is that you need to edit your poster, right? There can be absolutely no, typos or errors or any misinformation that has been provided, right? So you have to edit your poster. So one tip that really helps is that, just take out a print of your poster and edit it on paper, right? Because when it's a hard copy, it's easier to spot mistakes. It's a little bit harder to spot mistakes on the laptop because, you just skim through it and you have anyways looked at your poster so many times that it's, like second nature to you by this time, right? So it'll be nice to have like a printout of your poster that you can, look again with fresh eyes and just edit it and ensure that there are no typos or anything, right? Okay, so these are basically some do's and don'ts that you need to take care of while preparing posters. So a few of them will are also applicable to other medical marketing materials, not just posters. I'll talk about them as we go, right? So the first point is keep it simple. So this is applicable to everything that you write. There's absolutely no need to make things more complicated than they need to be, right? So keep everything that you do simple. Like get your point across in as limited words, as limited pictures, or as limited talking or anything that you need to do. Just keep it very simple and get straight to the point, right? So next thing is use large and colorful images. This is to grab the reader's attention. So for posters, this is very necessary because posters are mostly images, and that is how you grab your reader's attention. While using, colorful and large images, make sure again that they are specific to the topic that you're trying to say, and not just random images of anything. You can also use images of, say, actors and, famous personalities who maybe, if an actor is affiliated with your company and they already promote that product, you can use that and actor's image on your posters, because a lot of people associate the actors or the famous personalities with that product, right? So you can use their image, right? So you have to be very, very creative and very careful about what sort of images you use. You can use all your creativity that you have, but it has to be specific to the topic, right? Make sure of that. The third thing is that you use large font sizes. So a poster is meant to be like, viewed from a distance, right? It is in a public space and you want people as far as possible to be able to see and read your poster, right? So use large font sizes and to make sure that the people can read what you're trying to say. In continuation of that, you should use the font, right font colors and the right background colors, right? So some fonts are, like very hard to read, like they're small and tiny letters, and don't use those fonts, use bigger fonts, right? And while choosing colors for the font and backgrounds, so you have to keep in mind that there are, like what fonts
Dr. Anubha, looks like your video is freezed. Could you just check once? Are you able to hear me?
font color on red or white font color on black, right? Or orange font color on black, maybe, stuff like that. You basically want your text to pop out, right? And the people to be able to see the text. So use that. Also use font colors, that are bright, colorful, and, that attract the readers or the viewers' attention. So use red, use white on a black background and stuff like that. Use bright colors, okay? So what are some things that you should not do? Do not have visual clutter on your posters, right? So this basically means, like putting everything in, like putting multiple pictures, a lot of text, stuff like that. So it just, when a person sees the posters, all they can see is like ants crawling around, right? You do not want to do that. You want to have very specific, like have a big image, very small, points, like only keywords. Use that. Make it as soothing as possible for the viewer to view it, right? You do not want visual clutter in your poster at all. The second thing you don't want to do is have irrelevant or inappropriate images. We have talked about it multiple times. You do not want irrelevant images because they are of no use, and inappropriate images for obvious reasons. You do not want them because it, has to make sense to the viewer. Like, if you have a no smoking poster, it does not make sense to put a kid on, that poster, right? Um, yeah. So you have to make sure that what you're trying to say and your images, they go hand in hand, and they should not be irrelevant or inappropriate, right? And the last thing that you do not want are typos. Again, we have talked about this. Typos are a complete no. You absolutely cannot have typos or any misinformation on your posters. So make sure that you proofread it, edit it multiple times, right? Take out a printout of your posters and edit it multiple times to ensure that every word, every image that you have put on a poster is perfect, right? I think that is it for the posters. So we only have like a few, like 2 slides to go, I think, for ethical considerations. So let's quickly go through that, and then we can take up any questions that you guys might have, right? So yeah. So what are the ethical considerations that you have to keep in mind? So the most important 2 ethical considerations are that number 1, patient safety and well-being. This is like the most important thing that you have to take care of no matter what, right? That is of the utmost importance, right? As a medical marketer, you have to ensure that every product or every service that you are promoting, they have to be safe for the patient, they have to be effective for the patient, right? You cannot promote any random stuff that harms the patients or does not really do anything for the patient, right? So one other thing that you need to know is that you cannot promote any product in a way that is harmful for the patient. You cannot just tell people that take this drug like 4 times a day because it's very good. It might be good, but only when taken like once a day or twice a day. You can't just be like, you take it as much as you want because it's very good for your problem, right? So you have to be very, very careful about maintaining patient safety and well-being. The second ethical consideration is transparency. You have to be very transparent when you give out any information to the patients. Like, you have to very clearly tell patients about the risks that a drug might have, or the effects a drug might have, or how long it takes to actually the drug to act, or if you are, suppose you are promoting like a weight loss diet or something like that, you cannot be like, okay, lose like 10 kgs in 1 week, right? Because that's not feasible, that's not correct, right? So you have to be very clear and very transparent with your readers about everything that you're saying, and you have to be very, you have to have correct information always, right? Yeah, so I think this is like the end of our PPT. So what is the future of medical marketing as we are moving towards, you know, I think there's going to be like, there's already like increasing use of digital marketing techniques. A lot of people are, using social media and websites and YouTube and stuff like that to promote their products. So there's a very clear, trend towards digital marketing techniques. So you have to be like, up your game in those aspects. The second thing is that we are moving towards a patient-centric marketing, which basically means that we are aiming to look at every patient as an individual and market our products based on that individual patient, right? And it's not like a group thing anymore. We want our patients to be, very individual-centric marketing. So that is another thing that a lot of emphasis is being put on now. So the challenges in medical marketing, so there are basically two challenges. First is regulatory compliance. So like I told you in the beginning, there are regulatory bodies which very strictly, have rules and laws and stuff that you absolutely need to follow while preparing medical marketing materials. And these are, you cannot like go over these, right? They're like not complying to these rules can lead to a lot of, legal fines, legal action, fines against you, and then most importantly, and like damage to the reputation of your company if something like this comes up. The second challenge is that there's an increasing skepticism of healthcare professionals and patients towards medical marketing, because well, they believe that they cannot always trust what like companies are trying to tell them or sell them, because everybody is trying to sell them something, right? So there's a little bit of increasing skepticism about that, but that honestly no way means that medical marketing has any problem, like it's going to stop or anything. It's a growing field and a very quickly growing field. There are multiple avenues and multiple things that are coming up. So the only thing is that you need to be updated with all this stuff, and you need to be like on the top of all this stuff. When we say that we are going towards digital marketing and we are using social media and stuff like that, you do need to know how to use social media, and things will keep changing, new things will keep coming, so you need to be updated with all the information and all the new techniques that come in medical marketing, right? So it's a vast field, it's not going to end anytime soon, and there's like a lot of opportunities for people who want to switch to medical marketing. So it's a great opportunity for people who want to switch. So yeah, I think we're done. Yeah, so that was it from my side. So you guys can ask any questions that you might have now. Please feel free.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Anubha. Thank you. And thank you. A wonderful presentation. And on behalf of everyone present here today, I would like to thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge, on most of the common, inputs that we do in medical marketing.
Yeah.
And, your ability to share the expertise and experience in such a concise and engaging manner. It was such a beautifully presented with a nice flow. Of course, you took the audience in, definitely planning your presentation for sure. It's truly commendable. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm sure this expertise of yours would definitely help us, all of us present here, to continue our learning with the webinar replay. The recordings will be available later on to all of us. Maybe in case some of us want to, go through one more time and check that, it will be possible. And personally, I must say, I gained such immense amount of information from this talk of yours. And definitely your passion and dedication for medical marketing is evident from the way you presented in today's session. Yeah, so, and of course, I deeply resonate, with your emphasis on considering the fact that we should always keep the reader in our mind, even before we even think of planning our medical marketing inputs, because that gives a lot of clarity on what kind of input is going to be and what kind of information we'll be capturing into that. And that definitely helps us to leverage the true power of the actual medical marketing input that is being created. So thank you so much. And I'm sure this, the entire presentation of yours would have given a lot of food for thought to the audience who is watching us on YouTube, and also some of us are present on Zoom. And later on, all of us will definitely, take the recording later on and see. So thank you so much. I sincerely hope that you continue to inspire others with your knowledge and passion. And I'll definitely have you sometime again in the webinar to continue on more medical marketing sessions.
Definitely. I would love to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, participants, in case you have any questions, please do ask, and we'll take some questions. So, Dr. Anubha, you may just have some glass of water. Meantime, and then I'll take up some of the questions. All right. So there is one question from Devanshi. Devanshi, would you like to unmute and ask yourself, or you want me to ask? Just give me a thumbs up, so let me know. Any one of you can unmute and ask. I have given the unmuting right to all of you. All you need is to just raise your virtual hand on Zoom. Interaction is always good, right? So Dr. Anubha has been talking for almost 1 hour 40 minutes now, and we are just listening, sitting here and listening. It's good that you start interacting and ask her a few questions. It will definitely encourage and motivate both of us to continue further sessions, organize more sessions for you. Yeah, so there are a few questions. I'm taking 2 questions from YouTube. One is, what is the first step one should take to get into medical marketing?
Okay, so that is true. What I'll tell you is true for all sorts of medical writing stuff, not just medical marketing. So the thing is that it's hard to get in as a fresher, because people don't know you, even you don't know what you're doing, right? So one thing that really helped me was I started kind of small, right? Like I said, I started with doctor who I started as an intern with a doctor who wanted to just have medical blogs for his website. So that is how I started. And always don't go for the pay. The pay initially won't always be very good, right? But that will help you know what you're doing, right? And that will, secondly, most importantly, it will help you build a portfolio of your own. So the first thing that you absolutely need to have are like 3 things that you absolutely need to have, when you want to get into medical marketing or any medical writing field. Is basically, you need to have a portfolio, you need to have a LinkedIn profile, and you need to have your updated CV and resume. So basically, if you most freelance clients won't ask you for your CV or resume, but if you apply for jobs, they usually ask for your CV and resume. So it's always good to have it updated. And the second thing is, LinkedIn is like, and there's everybody who's in this field or any other field is on LinkedIn. So that is a great place to find clients, right? I have found like at least 3 or 4 clients through LinkedIn, right? So you have to have like a good optimized LinkedIn profile. Start posting stuff, start trying to have a presence on LinkedIn so that people can find you as such. Start interacting with people of your community. Like if you want to get into medical marketing, we have talked about what sort of companies and what sort of people are looking for medical marketers. So you can start connecting with those people and have conversations with them. You can always DM them. Most people are very happy to reply back. That is actually how I met Manoj sir as well. Like I just DM'd him once. So so you can do all of that, build a presence, and eventually when you have that sort of presence, people will find you. And the most important thing is that you need to have a portfolio which showcases all of your best work. And you can use, there's a lot of free websites that help you do it. I use Wix. You can also use Wix. You can also use WordPress. Like there are multiple options. You can choose any basically. One tip I would say is be sure to make your portfolio depending on the area that you want to go in. Like, if you are an cardiologist, for example, or if you have a PhD in oncology, right, and you want to go in that, it makes less sense to have articles relating to nephrology. So figure out what you want to go into, and then make your portfolio in that field. It will take time to figure out what you want, and you might just slap your hands everywhere in the beginning, but eventually you will figure out what interests you, and then start building your portfolio in that particular field. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Anubha, for that. And just for all of us, LinkedIn is the most important platform here today. More than 60 lakh companies from 200 countries are present right now on LinkedIn, and few lakhs of medical writers are right now on LinkedIn. And it's really powerful. So if your profile is really optimized, if you are present, if you keep posting content on LinkedIn, then you become visible. Once you become visible, you get connected. Once you get connected, you have this network, get established. Once you have the network, then there will be a lot of opportunities will keep coming in. So this is a process. There is always a process. There are no shortcuts to all of this. And, we have to be present on LinkedIn. We have to optimize the profile. You need to spend at least 25-30 minutes, every day to keep your profiles optimized and keep working, keep posting content in your niche area. So don't start posting on everything and anything, and don't just keep posting on all the forwarded stuffs there. Try to, follow your niche, follow your heart, and whatever is your, whatever is your expertise, try to create content on that. You can also use Medium. Medium is also becoming very powerful these days. And Medium is also going to start this monetization. I'll be having one more session on that later on, but then on Medium specifically. So Medium is going to give creators, payouts if their articles are read more. So that is what Medium is coming up. And if your quality of content is good, you can have establish a lot of followers there, and you can actually establish yourself as a portfolio, establish yourself as a writer. So how do you do your portfolio? Number one, create your LinkedIn profile, start posting content relevant to your niche area, start using free option of creating articles either on LinkedIn or on Medium. Both the options are free. And this is the way you start building your network, right? So, and we'll have more sessions coming up there, use of softwares and all of that we are planning. Upcoming months will be full of medical writing related stuffs. So stay connected. You will take up some more questions now. Yeah, perfect. So there is one question. Is this field in hybrid mode? Yes, definitely. Yes. Yeah, many offices, they're giving 100% work from home. If you become one of the trusted employees, then in that case, yes, you get that option of liberty of working 100% from home. You have to first establish your worth to the company, and the moment company realizes your worth and company knows that you can be a great employee for the company provides all the facilities, and definitely you can work from anywhere in this world and be at the comfort of your home or anywhere. My boss used to say, whether you work from mountain or you work from home doesn't matter, as long as you deliver the project to me. So it's like this. Yeah, all they want is good quality input and good quality projects. Okay, so perfect. Thank you for asking that. We'll take one more question. Next question is from Devanshi. Any app or software suggestions for poster making, Dr. Anubha?
Poster making is actually, there are honestly a lot of apps that you can use. I use basically Canva and like the PowerPoint presentation. You can actually prepare all your posters in Microsoft like PowerPoint as well. So these are the two apps that I use, but I'm pretty sure there are a lot of other apps that you can use. Yeah.
So Devanshi, for you again, I'll add some points to Dr. Anubha's suggestions.
Yeah.
In Medico-marketing, how the system works is there are writers, there are copy editors, there are people who do graphic designing, there are people who do marketing. Okay, so the entire team works in sync with each other. The job of a medical writer or medico-marketing writer is to simply create a content in PowerPoint or a plain Microsoft Word. And the job they are supposed to just give ideas to the graphic team or the design team, and the design team later on takes care of the entire designing, and the designing happens based on the brand, the brand of the client, right? So let's say we are working on a Medico-marketing input for Abbott. The brand essence of Abbott will be taken care for the entire design, right? Design element will be taken care by the graphic design team. So we don't normally, get into the designing aspect. We are focused morely on creating the content part of it. And for creating content, and if you are using references and all, I suggest use Microsoft Word. That's the best one. And Microsoft Word has a lot of features these days. You can, put icons and all of that. And PowerPoint also does the job. Yeah. So that should help you. And we also have one more session on, doing only softwares in Medico-marketing. So stay connected for that. We'll do that. Yeah. So one question is from Pinky. How much time on an average you take to prepare a slide deck or poster? Dr. Anubha, this is for you.
So, okay, it actually depends, so I feel that slide decks, the most amount of time goes into like actually gathering information and, having that outline. The actual preparing of the slide decks happen relatively very quickly, because you can, like I said, use like a template. There are multiple templates available everywhere. So you can just basically use a template. So the most amount of time that I spent like for this presentation, it honestly took like, you can say like the most amount of time I spent was, gathering the information and understanding like what I would want to tell people about Medico-marketing, right? So I think that Manoj sir and I have been, talking about for a few weeks, but then I gathered all the information and everything in say like 2 days or something, and then preparing the slide decks was like the easy part. So that took around, I don't know, 1.5 hours maybe. So,
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so Dr. Anubha, your video is off right now. Looks like some, issue with the internet. Yeah, that's okay, no problem. So, as you rightly said, I'm sure all of us might have, heard of that woodcutter story, right? So we gather more information. We work mostly on doing the research first, creating the outline. That is like sharpening of the X, right? In the woodcutter story, you remember, 97% of the time he, works on sharpening the X, and then only 3% or 2% of the time he actually cuts the wood, right? So in medical marketing or medical writers' life also, most of the time goes in doing the research, collecting the references, understanding the topic. Sometimes we will be reading new topics, new subjects, new therapy areas. So most of the time goes there. And once the resources are collected, we create an outline. Then maybe the outline sometimes get approval from the higher ups and also from the client. There is a to and fro happening during the outline, approval itself. And then once the outline gets approved, then we start working on the content part of it. And of course, we take care of all the, references should be, authentic and, should be from the journals. And there are so many other aspects that has to be taken care of. All right. So if there is one more question, I'm taking it from YouTube. If someone is in mid-senior level with 4 to 5 years of experience in other fields and now want to move to Medico-marketing, so should they start from scratch? What suggestions would you give for such person?
So if you are like a mid-senior level, I think that gives you, a lot of advantage. Like as for me, I was, just like an MBBS graduate with, absolutely no experience. So if you are already mid-senior level and you have worked for 4-5 years, that definitely gives you a lot of advantage. Yes, it will be new getting into medical writing or Medico-marketing, but since you already, have so much, experience and knowledge about your subject, you can actually just start preparing, your portfolio based on the kind of stuff that you want to do, and just start with that. Basically, you obviously will have to start from scratch with building your presence and, like stuff like that, but your CV would be good, you would have a lot of experiences, so that will definitely be an advantage. Absolutely. So use that advantage to your gain and prepare your portfolio with using all that experience that you have. That will definitely set you apart from a lot of other people.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one more suggestion, I'm just adding to Dr.
Yeah.
Anubha's what she told. One more suggestion to all of us here. I'm sure all of us are connected to some or the other doctors, right, who are practicing in hospitals, or they might have their own clinics. So today, we are living in the era of digital and, online technologies. Every doctor, simply wants to go online and, do advertisement about his or her work online. So why not start writing some blogs, some articles for these doctors? In the process, you'll gain experience. You'll also understand what is the expectation of these doctors, and you might also get a recommendation later from this doctor. And God knows, this doctor might recommend you to another 3 or 4 of his or her friend, and then you start getting a lot of work from them. Now, why I'm suggesting to start with doctors, because all these pharmaceutical companies eventually come to doctors for marketing. Now, imagine if a doctor's work already you are doing, you have already understood the, end users requirement. Now, if you start reaching out to companies and you showcase this work, this portfolio of works that you have already done, it becomes very, very easy for you to get into the domain, right? So this was just an suggestion from my side. I hope it was useful. Okay, all right. So there is one more question, Radhika Sharma from YouTube. Is it needed any diploma or medical writing course for fresher to join into this field?
Not really. I mean, I didn't have any diploma. I did have my MBBS degree, but other than that, I didn't really have any diploma or course on medical writing. So
Yeah.
I think having like a background in medicine and knowing how to write and stuff, like
Absolutely.
all of the things that we discussed, that is pretty enough. But you can always like upskill yourself. You can always learn to write better, learn to write grammatically well. All of these things
Yeah.
sound very small, but these can really add up to your articles and stuff like that. So you can always upskill yourself, but have like needing a diploma or like a degree for medical writing, that is not required
That
now.
is not needed. So basically what Dr. Anubha wants to say is you don't need a certification course for this. As long as you are able to understand the nitty-gritties of writing using different softwares and understanding how to create content, that is good enough. But for, for getting entry, you need some kind of sample work to, showcase to your, immediate hiring manager or the doctor or the client to whom you are working with. So for that, you need some kind of, maybe there are a lot of courses available these days. Swayam portal is one of the easiest one to access. Free. Government of India's, they've given a lot of writing courses up there. So you may just register for free and access the courses there. Yeah, I hope I answered that. Let's take some more questions. We'll take 2 more questions and we are done for the day. Okay. All right. So the portfolio in the beginning will be without no experience. So how to improve that? Posting content will help. This question is from Devraj.
So obviously when you start out, your portfolio will be of that of like a beginner level, so so that is okay. I mean, as you keep at it and you keep posting stuff, like sir said that you can write for medical blogs. I feel that is a very good way to start, because it's basic English. Like if you have a background in medicine, you already know the medical aspect of it, and it's just the writing aspect of it that you need to work on. So writing medical blogs or for websites is a pretty good way to start, and you can build your portfolio from there, and then venture into other kinds of stuff. So initially, yes, it will be beginner level, but with experience, as you keep writing, as you keep posting stuff will also help definitely. So as you basically keep writing and keep at it, your content and your portfolio will increase, and the quality of your portfolio will increase.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well said, Dr. Anubha. And I hope we got answered that, Devraj. Just in case you need more help, you can connect with Dr. Anubha or myself. And to all the participants who are, still connected with us, I'll be sending the Dr. Anubha's LinkedIn profile link. So you can also connect with her later on. The replay, the recording of this webinar also will be shared with you. So you may watch the recording again and, get clarifications from there. In case you need more help, if you want to connect with me also, I'm more than welcome. You can just Google me out. My name is there. You can search and connect with me. Any help, I'll be more than happy to help you out. Okay, so Devanshi, I'll take your question, the last one. Any digital courses that can be done to improve our profile? Of course, there are a lot of them. There are a lot of institutions. But again, there is big question mark on the quality and the authenticity of this. And many of this, I recently came to know that some of the institutions, they don't have even qualified trainers training these for these courses. So it's a big question mark. My suggestion is maybe to get started with, you may watch a lot of recordings on my YouTube channel. These are all from experts who are experts in their respective domains. They have come and spoken on different aspects of medical writing and medical communications. You can listen to them. They have suggested a lot of things, just like Dr. Anubha. They have suggested a lot of things, and they have answered different questions. So there are, I think, 16, 17 such webinar recordings available. It will be more than 25 hours of content for you to watch. That itself is like a digital course for you. And in case you need more support, you can always talk to any of these speakers. So profile details are available on the YouTube channel. Before we begin the sessions, the details are, I shared the details of the speakers. So you may go on LinkedIn, connect with them, talk to them, discuss with them, get clarifications. If you want, you may also connect with them, connect with me if you want, and then definitely we are there to help you out. The whole objective is we are here to help you out to understand how medical writing works. And of course, we'll try to, get you connected to the potential recruiters as well as we come along such vacancies in the future. Yeah. So thank you so much for asking that. And I hope all this, answers helped you, and this presentations by Dr. Anubha was helpful to you. Please do watch replay and keep learning as much as possible, because that's the only thing that stays with you, and everything else is just, yeah, keeps going, right? So thank you so much, Dr. Anubha. Thank you, everyone. All of you, thank you so much. Take care. Thank you so much for spending so much of time with all of us. And we'll meet next week again for some more learning. And all of you, in case you want to learn on LinkedIn, again, there are 5 videos on LinkedIn. There is 5 plus 5 or 6 hours of content, how to use LinkedIn, how to optimize, how to post, and all of that. You may be interested to watch that as well. All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Anubha. Thank you, everyone, for sparing such a wonderful time with us. And we hope this session was worth the time you spent with us. We'll keep learning, and we'll come back with some more interesting session next week. So stay tuned, stay connected with us, and keep learning. Thank you, Dr. Anubha.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care. We'll meet one more time again. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.